Okay, so I am here with Brad Cotman. Also, you probably know him as Campfacer online. He is not only a fan of the Friday the 13th game, but he is a content creator. You've probably seen some of his stuff on YouTube, as well as I believe he's been featured on the official game's website as a content creator. And but most importantly, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Brad today, as part of our 2-year anniversary coverage for the game, Brad is a backer of the game. That means he is one of the original people that not only decided he wanted to lay down his hard-earned cash for this game, but he agreed to support the game during its development. He followed it every step of the way. So, again, as part of our coverage, I wanted to reach out to the community, not just the people involved. And again, we have some other coverage lined up. We're going to be talking with Larry Zerner on Monday about some of the legalities revolving around the game itself, but also what that means for the future of the franchise. And we're going to be reaching out to some other people. I have some content as far as live streaming lined up. But one of the things I always knew I wanted to do was I want to speak with some people in the community and kind of get their vibe of the last 2 years. And Brad was at the top of my list. So first and foremost, Campfacer, Brad Cotman, thanks for taking the time out to chat with me.
Yeah, Jason, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I've always been so involved with the whole community and the horror and the game is awesome, awesome.
Absolutely. So one of the first things I wanted to touch on is based on some of your content that I've seen in the past. So I know that you were one of these people that grew up like we all did on gaming in the 80s and maybe the early 90s. But there's kind of two types of people that I find. There's the people that integrated gaming into their life as just kind of a lifestyle, and it was always part of their entertainment. But then there's other people that, as life happens, as it does sometimes, you kind of age out of it, and there's some things that you don't really, it doesn't really find a foothold in your life anymore. And I believe, from what I've seen, that was your situation, where Friday actually kind of brought you back into gaming. So what was it that you remember about first hearing about this game that made you want to not only support it with your hard-earned dollars, but kind of adjust your lifestyle to include gaming and kind of get back into that? What's your story there?
Yeah, well, I'm growing up as a kid, like you already went over that part, but real quick, I was turned on. I started with the Atari, obviously. That's how old I'm an old soul. I got the gray hairs coming in. So I started with Atari, and then I jumped on to NES. And I remember Nintendo NES was my go-to as a kid growing up. I mean, I would buy every damn game. My parents would go out and buy me, like, there wasn't that many games to begin with, like 30 games or something like that. And I started trying to beat every single game, and it was a challenge. Those games are really hard, They're fun, but it's a reward at the end of the game. If you beat it, you feel like jumping up and down. That's how hard these games were, So then I moved on from there to like Genesis and Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. And around that point, I started kind of going out drinking with my friends, and I started playing in a band and touring like the East Coast. And I kind of just faded away from video games. I actually kind of made fun of people that played video games for a while. I remember.
Oh, so you were one of them. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd be sitting there playing the drums. We'd be practicing in our practice space, and there would be kids coming over to watch us play, but grab the controller to play a game. And I couldn't remember the last time I actually played. I'm like, oh man, he's wasting his time with a video game, So around the time that the PlayStation 4, I think, came out, or a few years later, my kids, they're like, oh, this looks fun. Can we get it? And I'm like, whatever. So I bought it for Christmas, and it was the last time I played a game. I think it was Nintendo 64, like Mario. So from there to the PlayStation 4, we popped in Grand Theft Auto 5, and I was like blown away. I'm like, oh my God, like you get to go anywhere you want. You could drive, you could steal any car you want. There's people you could communicate on. Like I kind of heard about online chat and playing with people online, but it didn't register because I didn't care. And I kind of made fun of it, the whole Call of Duty kids on movies, you see them playing. And,
well, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I'm a guy that, and I've said this recently to just friends privately, as someone who's actually been a gamer and into geeky pop culture stuff and superhero stuff my whole life. This whole fad of the Marvel movies and geek culture being in vogue now, it's so funny because I remember a time when it wasn't so fashionable to be a geek. And when you're into Batman and Superman and video games,
Right.
it's just so funny as somebody that's lived through that to see this shift in the culture, and now it's not just acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Endgame is going to surpass Avatar as the highest grossing film of all time. So and did
Right.
you get a chance to check out the
Yes.
NES game back in the day for the Friday?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was one on my list. I used to play a lot, and I finally beat it. I beat, the
Wow.
bouncing
See, I
head.
never even got past. I don't think I ever understood how to play it anyway. I used to rent it from this local pizza place, and you'd only have like a day and a
Yeah.
half to play it anyway. I don't think I ever got past anything. I would just wander around until Jason killed me in the cabin, and then that was it. And I just kept doing that over and over.
Right. Yeah, and then you'd have to like blow in the game to make it work
Right. Yeah.
again or shake it around.
Now, as far as Friday,
Yeah,
when
so
you heard about Friday, and
yeah,
I know
so
the game was originally called Summer Camp before they got the licensing, do you remember when you first heard about that and what made you want to actually back it?
yeah, I was actually building up to that.
You're
Sorry.
fine.
I I was I was on Facebook, and I heard about this game called Allison Road, and it was these two people, like the husband and wife they were developers in their house developing a game that was kind of like that game
Right.
PT. And I was interested because I wanted to have a scary game, and it was hard. Like nowadays, I'm like, I don't know where to go for a scary game, and I'm on Facebook and I'm following this game called Allison Road, and then they had to cancel it because of something, and I remember it was at that point in time that I saw something come through called Summer Camp, and I'm like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Friday the 13th, and I think there was about maybe 10 to 15 people on their Facebook, and when they were talking about it, and I was one of them, and I was interested, and they mentioned, Kane Hodder is on board, and it's going to be kind of like a Friday the 13th slasher game, slasher volume 1 summer camp. So I was like, oh, I'm on board right now. This is awesome. From there on out, I was following the game. I was chatting emails and just what asking questions like, when's it going to come out? What are you doing with the game? Keep me up to date. And from there on out, I just was there. I was there from before day one, basically. Before it was called Friday the 13th, I was there and I was following, chatting with people. I told all my friends. I was so excited. And I wanted it to be like Friday the 13th. And when I heard it was becoming Friday the 13th, I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is awesome. So,
Right. I'm trying to remember back one of the first times I actually heard about the game. I think I knew it obviously because I was working in the industry and it kind of came out and we get the press releases and things, but I don't think that at first I gave it too much attention. Even though I'm a huge Friday fan, I thought maybe it was just going to be like just another title. And then my cousins really started following it pretty heavily. And once we got into it, I know there for about a year solid, we had like a couple times a week, we were playing like 3, 4, 5 hour gaming sessions on this game because it was just ridiculously addictive. And people compare it to games like Dead by Daylight and things like that, but for me, unless you've played the game, it's hard to describe why it has a different feel. It's a different environment. Obviously, the Friday license helps, especially for fans. But I don't even think it's so much that is the fact that it's just the gameplay and just the style. It's basically I consider it like a big game of hide and seek. You know what I mean? And or tag when Jason finally gets you. And I love that. I mean, who doesn't still want to play tag and hide and seek? Even now, I'm 37 years old. I'll play hide and seek right now if you want to play. You know what I mean? That's how much fun it is. So
yeah. Yeah, it's like it's it's kind of like one of those games that you could just keep going back to because it's short and
right,
sweet, you know? Um, I don't know if I have a lot of time in my life with everything going on, my family, my work and everything to get involved with a huge campaign type game. I do sometimes, but I can't sit there and play it for hours and hours. Friday, I pop it on and I have a ball playing 2 or 3 rounds, and then I'll take a break and go back to it. It's like
Yeah, it's
real
accessible. It's kind of
fun.
like the old school
Um,
games where you jump in
and
and out
yeah,
and
yeah. And every time you play, it's a different experience, even after
right.
2 years.
Now, when you finally you became a backer, you start following the development, and then the game is released. Now, we're going to get into some of the issues with the game here in a minute, but the initial launch was kind of a rocky one. They finally got things turned around within, I guess it was a couple weeks. But overall, if you look back on the last 2 years, based on everything that was promised, based on what you were hoping to get out of the game, would you say as a backer, specifically, not just a fan, because a fan is one thing. I'm just a fan. I was going to actually it's funny, I was going to back the game, but I literally went to do a donation the day after the Kickstarter ended, and I couldn't. But then I was able to get, because of my job and PR contacts, I was able to get a hold of Gun, and a lot of people don't even realize this, but I was working with Gun for our site, Cheat Code Central. We were actually going to do, it was a potential thing where we were going to actually do one of the higher tier donation things, where we were going to do the one where we actually design one of the achievements, and we were going to theme it around Cheat Code Central on the site. It never panned out, but that actually was going to be one of the potential achievements in the game.
Oh, that's cool.
But again, so I'm just a fan, though. You're an actual backer. So would you say that you're satisfied with the campaign and your commitment and just everything that, if you look back on the last 2 years, would you say that it panned out the way you'd hoped it had?
Yeah, yeah. We actually got more than we were promised, to be honest, as far as the stretch goals go. I was what I donated. I'm with the amount that I donated to the game. I was more than satisfied with everything that I got. My rewards, me being in the game on the virtual cabin on the computer, um, signed physical cop, like all that stuff that I got. I couldn't be more happy to spend what I spent to help fund the game and become part of it and make it become a reality. I'm not just saying that because I'm a fanboy or anything. Um, of course I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of the whole franchise, but I'll be honest, like if there is anything I'm not happy about, uh I guess just the people that complain about the game all the time, the toxic players and the people that complain that they spent $30 on the game when I spent way more than that. I just don't understand where people come from out there. Um they they delete the game off their console, a computer, because there's a bug or a glitch,
Right.
you know. That never bothers me. It's
And
fun.
Brad's talked about being in the game and things like that. You can actually see that in some of his content. Be sure to check him out on YouTube. He's on Twitch, Instagram. All of that is at Campfacer, and of course he also has a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Campfacer. But yeah, you mentioned the toxic community, and that's something else that I wanted to talk about. Now, the whole rise of the Facebook community, I think, has taken what we would consider to be like the toxic or the toxic gamer or the troll gamer, and Facebook and social media, I think in recent years has seemed to ramp that up quite a bit. But I think Friday
Yeah,
specifically, and I'm not sure why this is, but Friday
yeah.
specifically has gotten a reputation for being notoriously toxic, maybe even more so than your average game. Now, as not only a fan of the game itself, but you're also a content creator and a YouTuber, talk about what that's like in dealing with the toxic community at times, that when you're not only just trying to enjoy the game, but you're also trying to create content and put stuff out there.
Well, toxic players don't really affect me all that much. It does really piss me off in game when people trash talk the developers, um, and while they're like running people over with a car or roof glitching, and it's funny. It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't. It's a game. I think it's kind of funny, but I don't approve of
But you don't
it.
take it too seriously.
Um, I don't take it too serious, the people that do it, but when they start running their mouth and they really get, you could tell people get big head and they really think, I wanted to turn around like, what did you just say? You know, if it wasn't for gun media, this game wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have a Friday the 13th game at all. We might not even have some of the other horror games because maybe they got influenced by, oh, look what Gun did, you know? Um, oh, all these people are eating up this game. Let's make a game, you know? But I feel like the the community out there, they found a game that was easy to dive into, that they could easily take over and piss people off. Just they're trolls. They're doing it on purpose, and they feed off of that, you know. And I can sense them from a mile away. The people that are gonna quit the game as soon as you grab them as Jason, their body goes limp, and you're like, oh. He rage quit. I mean, I
Right.
made a rage quitting video over these trolls, you know? Oh
And
God.
and how would you say? But I mean, obviously, there's there's that community in the game, and I'm with you as in the sense that I you know I've seen people up on the roof, and I don't really. I mean, it doesn't. I'm still doing my own thing in the game, and I'm still enjoying myself, so I'm not that worried about it. But
Yeah.
as a fan, when you get on some of these Facebook groups and you just make just a
Hmm.
general comment,
Hmm.
just general, not even controversial, and then you got people attacking you for no good reason,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
you again, you know, you deal with people if people get on your YouTube videos and making snide comments. Is there something about this game or this community that seems to attract that? I don't know what it is, but it seems prevalent, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah. I don't know. Uh, it just it just started growing like that way. People like to troll people, you know, and if you know what it is, if somebody sees somebody defending the game at this point, once something like that starts happening, they start laughing and they want to like prove you're wrong, and I don't know, they just feed off of it, and it kind of bothers me that way,
Right.
but I try to defend as much as I can.
Yeah.
You know, I just have fun playing the game, and I don't see a reason to like for people to cry and moan and groan over some bugs or,
Right.
you know.
Well, yeah, and we have to talk about that now because that may be, you know, what is feeding some of this. So the Friday game, as fun as it is, has been plagued with probably the longest string of glitches and problems that I've maybe experienced in gaming. Now, I want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that it hasn't really ruined the fun factor for me like it has for some other people, and like how you mentioned people rage quitting the game and uninstalling it.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing that's really ever happened to me as far as a glitch that's been a problem is like, you know, if I'm in the middle of a really good game and the servers used to crash or somebody would quit or something, like that would be annoying, or you couldn't get a game lobby full. Those things have essentially, you know, the game breaking things, I think they've addressed enough to where I'm satisfied. But I mean,
Yeah.
let's not pretend that the glitches are gone. As a matter of fact, they just released a new patch that was supposed to fix some things, and not only did it not fix it, from what I've seen online, it's a whole new string of craziness going on with the glitches and people still being on top of rooftops, but then you got
Yeah.
cars glitching inside of cabins, and I saw
Yeah.
one guy was chasing a car and he hit it with a pocket knife, or he hit it with a throwing knife as Jason, and the car like spun out. And so those kind of things, that's frustrating from a sense that I feel like after 2 years, if those things were going to be fixed, they would have been fixed. So I think that at this
Yeah.
point, we have to just accept that, you know,
Mhm.
some of the developers may be in a little bit over their head as far as trying to get a handle on that. And it doesn't look like that's ever going to be resolved, unfortunately.
Right.
But is that something that you feel has gotten in the way of your enjoyment at all? Or are you able to just look past that and it doesn't bother you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a game developer, obviously. I've been kind of learning a little bit like about how games are made just by listening and watching.
Right.
And I do understand that when developers dive into fix coding in a game, they can fix that one code, but somewhere along the lines, deep inside the game, when they fix one code, something else gets kind of like bumped and moved out, and they don't know that happens until later.
Right.
Then they find it, people report it. So I guess that happens, it's no one's fault. I guess it happens to a lot of developers, unless they're like a AAA company that has like hundreds and hundreds of people working on the game. So that is understandable to me as long as they go back and fix it again. But it is frustrating when, uh, you know, you think the game's finally ready, fixed. They fixed the roof glitch. All of a sudden, now people are on a different roof somewhere else, and you're like, how'd that happen? Like,
Right.
how do these players out there discover these tricks? That's what I want to know. I mean, there was a way to get on the roof by using like the bear trap. It had to be at the top of a stair, and you had to do something else on a rock. Like, how did they figure this stuff out?
Right. And
That's what I don't understand.
I've always kind of said, as far as the glitches and them just not being able to get a handle on it, and then I know that
Yeah.
I think Ilphonic has moved on to another project, so they have another developer, if I have that correct.
Hmm.
But I've always said one of the reasons why the game has had so many problems is because it was an indie developer taking on such a monumental task right out of the box with Friday and,
Yeah.
and what they had to tackle. So, had it been in the hands of a more experienced developer, we absolutely wouldn't have had this problem. The problem with that is that's a double-edged sword. It's a catch-22. It would have taken a smaller indie developer like Gun to come along and say, let's do a Friday game, because I don't think a bigger, well-established company would have put the money and the resources into a Friday game. That was kind of uncharted territory, whether or not it would have been successful. So it's because of the indie company that we have the glitches. But if it wasn't for the indie company taking a chance and proving that there's a
Yeah.
fan base for this, we never would have had the game anyway. So you kind of have to take the good with the bad.
Exactly. And if a AAA company had made the game, they might have released it, and then maybe it would have flopped, and they would have just thrown it off to the side and made a different, like, Gun Media. It seems like they were so passionate. They are so passionate behind everything to do with the game, to make they wanted to keep pushing it and making this app, this and that, this map, that map, new skins. They wanted to keep going with it, and they didn't just do it just for a cash grab. They're doing it because they have passion behind horror.
Right.
They're all fans of Friday the 13th. I remember them talking about creating a game because they loved Friday the 13th so much. They wanted to do this before. That's why they came up with the name Summer Camp. And I just feel like if a AAA company did it, there would have been no passion behind the game at all.
Or we would have had a freaking mobile game or something.
Yeah, and they would have had a lot of like what do you call those like loot crate things or something? I
Right.
have no
Loot
idea what
boxes, yeah, yeah.
loot boxes and
Yeah, microtransactions, would have been, yeah,
microtransactions.
you would have
Yes,
had Jason
that's what it
wearing
was.
like different boots for 1999 and some craziness.
Yeah.
So you talked about passion and the game is concerned. It's been 2 years coming up. Well, I'm not sure when people are watching this, but May 26, 2019 is the 2-year anniversary. Do you still find yourself being as entertained with the game 2 years in? Do you see yourself continuing to play it? Because I still, when we talked about this a minute ago, because it's so accessible, if I just have 20 minutes to kill and I got nothing else going on, I'll jump into a quick game, maybe play around, or if I jump in as, if I load in as Jason and I get a couple kills, I feel pretty satisfied with that. So that kind of quick fix keeps me coming back.
Yes.
But I'm not sure how long that's gonna, like, if another really great game came along, would it replace Friday for me? Am I playing Friday because I still love it, or I just don't have something equally as
Right.
good to replace it yet? What are your thoughts on that? Do you see yourself as a
Well,
fan and a backer? Are you going to be with this game for the third, fourth, fifth year anniversary if the servers are even still live by then?
well, let me tell you, man, if it wasn't for Gun Media, my passion behind horror movie wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I wouldn't have any of this shit. Excuse my language. I wouldn't have any of this stuff
Sorry.
at all. Um, that's another thing. Because of this game, it released all my 80 movie horror passion out to create to bring it on to you guys. and it got me involved with buying merchandise, collectibles. Uh, you know, I love the fact that these guys did this, and it brought me to a community of people, my friends. I met so many people because of this game. If it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't have met all these groups of people. I wouldn't have talked to you or anybody. And
Well, that right there is worth the
yeah,
price of
so
admission. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah. So after 2 years, I mean, I've been level 150 capped out for like I feel like a year, I want to say, or more,
Right.
and I still play. I mean, I only have two achievements left to go, and I think it's like the boat escape and oh, the bear trap. I don't know why, but it's so hard to get all the bear traps on
Oh,
Jason.
I'm never gonna get that freaking PhD in murder. I'm
Oh,
never gonna get that.
and the 1,000 or 500 kills. I still haven't gotten the 500 kills yet.
As what, as Jason?
Yeah, I think isn't that what it
Yeah,
is?
something like that. But yeah, I don't even. They should have gave us a checklist or something for the PhD thing
But
because I have no clue which
yeah,
ones I still have
yeah. I wish
missed.
there was a checklist. It would have made it more like oh, I'm almost there, so I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I
You
mean, it
know,
would have kept me
I don't
going.
know how much longer there is to go on, and that's the problem. But yeah, my answer to that is I still there's no. I do move on to other games, but I always come back to Friday. I don't like push it to the side for like too long. I might go like a week without playing it at the most, and then jump on it again. But now I'm on to the PC version, and I'm on level like 43 now.
Right.
I still play the PS4 one with my
And we
friends.
got the Switch
Just
version that's
yeah, the
announced,
Switch is
so
coming
that'll be
out.
a whole new
That'll be
fan
yeah, that'll be
base.
fun to play the Switch version. So
When see, if it wasn't for the lawsuit, we would probably be seeing a lot of cool content coming to like
yes.
a Switch release would probably have something cool in there. But I mean, unfortunately, that was just horrible timing for our community. And that's some of the things I plan to talk with Larry on Monday about, which is I'm not going to rehash the details up until now because I think there's enough about that on YouTube and the internet. People can research that. But the primary thing I want to speak to him about is where does the series go from here? Now that doesn't have to do with the game. I mean, that's another thing about our community that people just do not understand. They don't want to accept the fact that this game is done. What you have now, there's no more DLC. They're not going to work on anything else. It's
Hmm.
done. But we have to move on and look to the future for not only sequels, but I mean there is a possibility at some point. I've always said we will get new content for Friday the game. We absolutely will get that. We will get new characters, we will get new Jasons, we will get new maps. The thing is, it will not be for this game. We will get another Friday game at some point in the future. That's when that stuff is going to come. And people just need to understand or accept the fact that the lawsuit has just killed that. But it also has stopped any movies. I think they said we're coming up on the longest dry period in the history of the series where we've had no new Friday movies and no new Friday content. So the lawsuit is going to hold up everything when it comes to that kind of thing, and we just have to sit and wait for that to happen. But I even look at games like Dead by Daylight, and I've tried to get into that game, and it's nothing against the game or the developers, but there's nothing about the
Hmm.
gameplay that grabs me as much as Friday. And I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
I'm very jealous of the licenses that Dead by Daylight has had. They have lots of cool stuff. I think they have today. They
Yeah.
have Leatherface, Michael Myers, Freddy, and Scream that they just announced.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very jealous of that, but still, I still have more fun playing a game like Friday, and I'm not sure. I don't know what it is, but
Well, I, I had a hard time getting into Dead by Daylight. A lot of my friends play it, and I get it. It's a fun game. I mean, I give it a chance, and I do like it. I didn't like it for a long time, but I just feel like those developers took those icons and quickly made them and tossed them into a sandbox and said, "There you go." There's no passion behind the characters, like or the killers, and I mean it is a fun game. You're running around and it's scary. You don't know like the heartbeats coming, and you're trying to repair a generator, and it's anticipation to get out, and it's almost like Friday the 13th, and I just get bored with it. Two matches, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I want to go back to Friday.
right. Now, you mentioned your YouTube channel earlier. So the game, obviously, you said resparked, or kind of gave you an outlet for your horror movie passion and things, and that's a lot of what we see. We see a lot of horror movie content on your channel, and you've changed it up over the years. You've tried different things. How long has your YouTube channel been going now? Is it over? It's about 2 years now, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know. About 2 years or so.
So, where do you see
Yeah.
your channel going from here? Obviously, it started with Friday. You're going to keep up with that. But if things transition to where you finally say, okay, Friday is starting to, it's on its last legs, or, you never know what can happen. If something changed with Gun Media and the servers go down, and they basically say, look, the servers are going to, we're going to pull them as of this date, we're all going to be forced to, because it's one of those games where without the server, I mean, there's a little bit of offline content, but not enough to really keep anybody's interest. So this is absolutely dependent on support from Gun. So if they ever decide to pull that,
Yeah.
where do you see your channel and your content as a content creator? Where do you want to go with it? Is it movie based? Is it still gaming? What do you want to do?
Well, the funny thing is my channel isn't actually based on Friday the 13th, the game or the movie. It's supposed to be just laid back horror movie related, whatever goes. But it kind of molded itself towards being with the game, like pulled into my channel. So and then not only that, I'm like doing a lot of live stream gaming. So a lot of people take it that I'm like a Friday the 13th the game YouTube channel. Um, I guess I technically am, but it's supposed to be like movie reviews, collectibles, but I just don't do enough of what I say I'm supposed to be doing. You
You're
know what I mean?
slacking already.
So
You're
I'm
slacking.
like, I just kind of like that. It was called Campfacer Theater
I remember that.
because I was actually influenced to make more homemade horror movie skits. And then I figured, well, if I call it that, then I'm labeled and I can't like I wouldn't be able to do like a video game thing or like a vlog with the family or something. And so I took out the theater and just named myself Camp Facer. And I'm like, hey, that sounds pretty cool, Camp
Now I
Facer.
gotta ask you.
Um,
I'm curious. What is the origin of the Camp Facer name? Is it like I get the camp part, but you got to help me with that.
well, a lot of people get it wrong and they think it's they a lot of the young kids that play Fortnite think I'm a camper, like camping like a sniper. I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. It's it is due to Friday the 13th, I'll tell you that much. Campground, camping,
Hmm.
summertime. That is the camp part, like you just said, you get that. But the facer is kind of like I still want to make this character. I don't know exactly what he is or what he's doing or what happens, but his name's Camp Facer. He's out there. It's not like supposed to be like Jason, but it's I gotta have a story behind. Like I've been thinking over the years of who is Camp Facer, what does he do? What I just like the name too. It's because it's so different. I figure if you're gonna make a YouTube channel or a gaming channel or any kind of thing out there, if you're gonna come up with a name, make something that nobody in the world would think of making. Because everyone's like, "What's Camp Facer?" I never heard of that Camp Facer. It doesn't mean anything, but to me, it's gonna be a killer, a guy in the woods going after people camping with their families. So every time somebody goes camping somewhere, maybe the Camp Facer will show up. I don't know what he's gonna do, but he's gonna be there, and something bad might happen. I don't know.
Well, I've seen some of the skits and things that you've done on your channel. So you enjoy doing more, not just creative content based on gaming. You actually want to do kind of a Friday movie esque thing. Like you're into that. You like writing
Yeah.
and directing and actually doing the characters and things. So you have a plan for that at some point.
Yeah. I want to actually do like a Fright Night type style, like maybe like a once a week I have like a show that introduces a short film that I did, and I'll be like the host talking, and then I'll present the half hour short film, and it's gonna. I want to have like a theater of like props that I can just keep doing homemade movie shots, of anything horror related. Yeah, and I did a couple of films, comedy type horror about the video game Friday the 13th called Slasher Backer,
Right.
and I thought it was funny, and obviously I was shooting it with an iPhone, and but a lot of people didn't get it. you know.
Yeah, well, that's okay. People didn't get Andy Kaufman either, but now he's like considered the greatest. So don't worry about that as much.
I just have fun. I just have fun doing it.
I just love the idea of seeing you as like a crypt keeper meets Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah. My wife thinks I'm crazy.
Well,
like, why did I marry you again?
well, it's funny because I've seen her in a lot of your videos, and like she seems to support what you're doing, which is always important. I mean, look at all the crap around me. You think I could do all this if I didn't have a wife that was supportive? So I mean,
that is cool that she does support, but it takes a lot to get her to do it. And if you guys would only see like the arguments.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm sure.
The bribes I have to do to make her do it. Just get in the bathtub with your clothes on.
Right.
Please.
Yeah,
I'll cook dinner tonight.
I feel you. Well, that's more than I would do. I can't cook anyway. Now I know I've seen. Obviously, you have your mass there, and you talked about collectibles, and I've seen some of your trips that you've done to conventions and things. Outside of like the gaming and your YouTube channel, how much of like the horror entertainment industry appeals to you? Because I mean, I know personally, I love going to like I go to game conventions or comic conventions anyway. But I go to almost all the horror conventions locally here. We do Horror Hound, we do Fear Fest, I think it's called, Days of the Dead. I'll pretty much go to any of them within about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. And I've met Kane. I've tangentially met him. I haven't met him in person, but that's actually one of the stories I'm going to tell during our anniversary week. And maybe if you're watching this after that, you've already seen it. But it was kind of it was a meeting that if I had to meet Kane in this, I wish it would have been a different way. But I'll tell that story. But I think I think I've seen pictures on your Instagram. You've met Kane and some other people. Talk a little bit about how important is that to you just as a fan and a content creator?
Yeah. That when this convention came by called TerraCon, it was a few years back. I found out Kane was coming there, and it was right down the road from us, like a half-hour drive in Providence. And I told my wife, I'm like, hey, we're going. No matter what, we're going. Kane Hodder is going to be there. And I was literally shaking in line to meet him because I get starstruck easy, and I just love meeting movie stars, actors, actresses, and when I go to conventions, that's my big thing, is meeting these people, because I grew up on they molded me as a person. They turned me into drinking the tall boys, okay? So when I met Kane Hodder, I brought my mask right here. It's a NECA mask. It's not Kane's mask. It's part 3. Kane's not part 3. But right. I went up and I went up to Kane Hodder and I was like, hey, I'm a huge backer of the game. I'm friends with Gun Media and so on. And I shook his hand, and I paid for an autograph and a photo. So he signed right here. I don't know if you can see this.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, right there. He signed that, and he signed a photo, and we did a photo with him, and with the whole group shot, my family. And then I was like, can I get one alone with you? He's like, yeah. So I put my arm like kind of on his shoulder in a way. He looks at me, he shakes his head, and he grabs me by the neck. And he didn't, like, I've seen people take photos with him with like that, and I thought he would just put his hand there like an act.
Oh no, he chokes him. He straight up chokes him.
He was really choking, and I didn't care. I thought it was fucking awesome. I mean, Jason Voorhees is really choking me right now. If you think about that, right. I'm really getting choked by the real Jason Voorhees.
So you actually had a real Jason kill.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there like I was starstruck, and I'm like, oh man, it was awesome to meet him. I was so happy that we walked off without all my stuff. It was on the table. We were walking away, and he yells out, he's like, hey, you forgot your stuff. And I was like, oh. So I grabbed the mask, and I walk off again without the other thing, my photo that I bought with his autograph.
Well, you really got starstruck.
Yeah, so he called me back again, and I grabbed it and walked off. I'm like, all right.
That's smooth.
I did what I wanted to do. What do you guys want to do now? Now it's your turn.
So that was it. Well, at least, regardless of whether that was the correct mask, at least you didn't do what I would probably consider like the number one faux pas when meeting Kane. I see this all the time in these like YouTube videos. People are like, oh yeah, I love you, Kane. You're my favorite Jason. And I even got a Jason tattoo. And they like roll up their arm. They show it to him. And it's the Freddy versus Jason
Oh
version.
God,
And
yeah.
if you don't know, Kane takes that very personally. He did not,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
And you
yeah, because
you
he
don't
got
show him the
denied
wrong one.
because they he was trying to get the part, and yeah, they just blew him off.
Yeah, it was crazy. That movie, it was one of those things where, as a fan, you wait for years and years, and that movie just did not go over how I wanted it to. Now, I will say it was raucous in the theater. I remember everybody was cheering and laughing, and it was cool, but it was more of like being at like a WWE event instead of an actual
Yeah,
Jason movie and or a Freddy movie, even for that matter. I don't think Ronnie Yu probably was the best choice because he kind of brought that Bride of Chucky mentality into the series that these two films people take them very seriously, and they're very dark, serious movies. So we probably needed probably a little more Wes Craven than Ronnie Yu for that. But I still hold out hope that we'll get once the lawsuits done.
yeah,
I still hold out hope that we'll have maybe at the very least one more Jason movie, maybe with Kane, pretty much like they did with the new Halloween remake, where they kind of just did a fan service throwback just for the fans. I think if we get one more of those, and I'm pretty sure that'll be the 13th film in the series, and even if you just have a little Freddy cameo, it doesn't have to be Freddy versus Jason, just have a little something in there, I think we all, as Friday fans, could probably die happy at that point.
yeah. I would love if they give Kane another chance to put the mask back on, and I think he could totally rock it, do it again, and
Absolutely.
I think he knows what people want to see, and when he did the mocap for the game, I remember watching like the live video of the mocap. He was he wasn't just doing it to help create the game. He was getting into character so much that he put the mask on, and he was like he injured his arm. I remember seeing photos of he did the sleeping bag kill for the game.
Right.
I remember he hit the pole so hard over and over again that his arm was black and blue. He tore like something in his arm. So, there's passion right there.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate the previous Jasons because I mean, I grew up on all of the
Yeah.
Jasons, but I mean, Kane absolutely is the first person to give Jason a personality, give him consistency, and for people like me, he is Jason, which is why I took
Yeah.
Freddy versus Jason and Ken Kirchner taking over so hard. And again, nothing against Ken. By all accounts, Ken is a sweet, great guy. I've never met him, but I've never heard anything, never heard a bad word about him. Even Kane himself has said
Yeah.
he likes him, but it's just it wasn't the right call. They needed to keep that. And from what I understand too, it was a stupid reason. I think Ronnie, you said in an interview the only reason he didn't bring Kane back is because he wanted the discrepancy between Freddy and Jason to be like huge. He wanted a huge,
Different.
giant,
Yeah.
yeah, like Frankenstein type Jason versus the smaller, wiry Freddy. And to me, that was not a good reason to dump a guy who's poured his heart and soul into this character, and nobody else would have done that. And nobody's going to take this character that seriously, but he really did. He protected it. He stewarded the character. I think during part 8, he even gave notes about things Jason would or wouldn't do. I think there was a scene where they had written in the original script for part 8 where Jason gets off the dock in Manhattan and he kicks a dog or something. And I remember Kane's like, Jason wouldn't do that. And I appreciate that because he's
Yeah.
actually, he gave thought to it. He's not just a guy in a mask getting a paycheck. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I also like C.J. Graham and Ted White. Part 4 was my favorite film.
Part 4 is still your
If
favorite film of all of them?
Yeah, if I could talk about that for a second.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say to this is basically where my Friday the 13th started. Okay. I was about 9 years old. I want to say 8 or 9, and I wasn't really technically supposed to watch horror movies with my parents, but I've seen them kind of snuck behind, into a room, and I saw a horror movie here or there. But the day came where my mom was like, "We're gonna go to the video store and rent a VHS," and I was like, "Okay." She's like, "I'm gonna let you rent a horror movie." I'm like, "Really? Okay, cool." So we walk in, it's like a little mom pop place. I've been there hundreds of times, and she's like, "Pick whatever you want." And me being a boy, of course, I'm not gonna like be soft about it. I go over and I'm trying to look for like the cover of any horror movie that looks the most brutal.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah, kids
of
today won't
course,
understand that. They're so
yeah.
coddled.
So I look up and I'm like, I see Friday the 13th Part 4, and if you remember the cover, it has a knife going through the eye
Right.
with blood coming
It's the
out.
same one that,
That's all it
yeah, they
shows.
used that for the title screen for the NES game.
Yeah. So I grab it. I'm like, I want this one. I don't know what it is. It just looks awesome. I want to rent this because it looks brutal. I have no idea who Jason was. I didn't know what Friday the 13th was. So she was kind of like hesitant about it. She's like, all right, whatever, if you want to watch it. I'm like, yeah. So we go back, and I was sitting downstairs in our den, and it was like a cold, wide open den. I shut the door. It was late at night, and I shut the lights off, and I popped it in. I was by myself, and by the end of the movie, I was kind of just like stuck, like frozen, kind of just like between like the score of the movie and everything that just happened. I was kind of like looking left and right, and I was like,
What just
I gotta
happened?
put. Yeah, so I put another movie on. The one that we rented, it was Police Academy, just came out, the first one. I popped that in to soothe me, and from there on out, I was like, I found out I that molded the whole franchise into me, and till this day, I think Part 4, it it's the real true one Jason movie. It has a little bit of everything in it. It's really scary to me. I don't know why, scarier than the other movies, and maybe because of that whole reason. And Jason's still human. um Corey Feldman was in it, and a good acting. I just thought it was scary and brutal, and one of my favorite Jason movies, but it's not my favorite one. I mean, I love Part 6, so it's I'm tied up between Part 6, Part 4. Part 7's
I
awesome,
think part
and then
six is probably the one I remember seeing. If I had to say
yeah,
first, now I know I've seen part eight the most, but that's just because for some reason I guess USA owned the license back in the late '90s. That movie was on like every Friday the 13th. That was the one that was on, and they
yeah.
played it even when it wasn't Friday the 13th. They just played part eight. Jason Takes Manhattan to death.
The one that everybody, even I, was disappointed about how much time that he was in Manhattan.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned that
Until
because the girl, my favorite's part seven, which with Tina and the Powers, and I got a chance to talk to her at a panel, and
oh, you did?
yeah,
Nice.
and she had mentioned that she had actually written a draft for part eight that just never got produced, and so I jumped on that and I was asking her about it. I'm like, I would love to read that. Where can I read it? But I don't think she said she might have had a copy somewhere, but I don't think it ever actually got published like actually in a screen, an official screen,
Yeah.
like an official draft for the people to read it for the screenwriters. But she essentially, yeah, she wrote a part seven or a continuation of part seven into part eight where Tina would come back. And I think she brought back some of the other characters. And yeah, I think about that and what might have been. And I'm just like, and personally,
I
I don't
know.
hate part eight as much as everybody else does. I don't really hate any of the Friday movies, but if I had to pick one that I have the most problem with, I would go Jason Goes to Hell. And I can rant about that all day long. But yeah, part eight I think is
Yeah.
okay. And I actually, when I heard that they might do like another map for Friday, everybody always wanted like, yeah, we should get a Manhattan map. And I'm like, guys, being on the boat could be cool. Because imagine if you had it would be a narrow, longer map, but it would have like three tiers, and you would go up and down from like the top of the boat deck down to the bottom, and it could have environmental kills where you like throw somebody off the side instead of
Yeah.
throwing them out the
That would,
window. You throw them over the boat. Like that could have been cool, I think.
and if you're on the boat, because it's so confined, they would have to disable the sense ability, so that way you could actually hide a little bit.
Right, yeah. If you could
You
get in the
know,
cabins and do certain things, yeah, that would be cool.
yeah. The one thing that bothered me about Part 8 movie was it didn't bother me, but I always think about it. I'm like, how the hell did the boat get out of the boat that Jason was on in Crystal Lake? How did it get from Crystal Lake to the bay, the saltwater
Yeah.
bay? Like, how did he load it onto a trailer and drive it down the road and launch it at like the saltwater
Apparently
bay?
his morph
Or
is
it was
really good. He can morph the boat and everything else, yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
funny you mentioned the police
But
academy thing too, because I did a similar thing when I was a kid. My go-to was the Muppet Babies that I taped off a television.
oh, I love
Yeah,
the
so
Muppet
that was my
Babies,
go-to for when I got scared. So,
yeah.
well, man, I appreciate you stopping by. It was really fun chatting with somebody. not only in the
Yeah.
community, but somebody that I know has a huge passion for the Friday series and horror in general. And I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit to see kind of where we have come in the last 2 years and, kind of the future of the series. And the sad thing is, we're both in the same boat as Friday fans. The future of Friday, at least as of this recording, is very uncertain. We have no idea. I mean, the game is what it is. And I mean, it's the game. Again, there's no new content, but at the very least, I think,
We all have
yeah,
hope.
but
We all have hope that maybe someday I just want a couple new maps and a couple new kills or something like that. Just one or two more maps, but we'll see.
yeah, I just want a game. Like, I just want them to, at the very least, just fix the game. Just like get to the point where it's like, okay, there's no,
Realistically, yes,
that's probably the best I could hope for. But at this point, I'm looking on to just, what do we get from Friday in the future? I mean, I've heard speculation back before the lawsuit that they were potentially thinking about a live action TV show, which I thought could have been cool. Just a movie, getting Kane back, just anything. And until the lawsuit was resolved, and again, we're going to be talking with Larry Zerner, who was the original Shelley in Part 3, and he's now a copyright lawyer, and he knows all the ins and outs of that lawsuit. So we're going to be talking with him. Hopefully, he gives us some hope.
I actually killed. I'm sorry. I actually killed Larry Zerner in a game. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, I heard that.
I was in one of Randy Greenback from Gun Media. Well, he was working for Gun Media. I was in one of his live streams, and I spawned in as I came back as Tommy, and Sweater Girl was there, and Larry was Jason, and they were all calling me over. Tommy, get your ass over here. Come here, come here. And I'm like, I knew what was going down. I'm like, I kind of don't want to like kill him because I'll feel bad. So I ran over there, and they got the mask off, and he obviously wasn't playing the game that much, so he was kind of like new to it. I just went over and did it anyways, and we killed him, and I felt kind of bad, but at the same time, when I shut the game off, I was like, I just killed Larry Zerner.
Right.
I just killed Shelley from Part 3.
Yeah, it's bragging rights. I'm sure he doesn't take it personally.
Yeah.
What I appreciate it, and anybody watching this, no problem. And make sure everybody follows Campfacer on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe, share the videos, all that good stuff, and be sure to support him on Patreon. Thanks again, brother. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Awesome. I hope I didn't bore everybody.
No, not at all. I'm not.
And everybody, I hope everyone stays with the game and gets involved, and I hope we get more games like this. And it's just awesome that the whole community is coming together. And just
remember, we are going to get a part 2 at some point. Just it'll happen someday.